Hello, good morning. Welcome to Facebook. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my friend's spare bedroom that I'm doing this recording from. I've been traveling a lot lately, and so I do these wherever I need to do them because I come here weekly, no matter where I am. I come here weekly to talk about all different teacher topics that I think are important to discuss and that might be helpful to all different teachers. So today, what we're going to talk about is the joy and the absolute panic that is the end of the school year. And you know that feeling like right now I'm recording this in May and you're feeling like the trees are blooming and the tulips are out and the sun is bright and warm and you can just feel summer's around the corner, right? I start to dream about like a cold beer on the beach and kicking off my shoes. And then I realize, back to reality, I'm like, oh no, I have so much to do before the end of the school year. And you start to panic, right? Yeah, I know. I've been there a million times. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How we can, not go like screaming into the finish line that is the end of the school year, but to do it a little bit more methodically, a little bit more organized, and a little bit more efficiently to help you and to help the students be really effective and efficient, right? It really reflect upon your year and do it well so that you don't end feeling like your hair's standing on end and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just got off that roller coaster ride. I know this school year has really been a roller coaster ride, but we're here. We did it. And that's really what I want to focus on. I really want to talk about the joys of teaching, what we've done really well. Excuse me. I want to stay positive and I want to learn and grow. And that's what we're going to do today here. Okay. So, if you're anything like me, you're probably in May, you're counting the amount of classes you have left, the amount of units you still have to get through. You're thinking, oh wait, and then you have to go canceling the classes that of yours that have been canceled. I don't know about you, but in my old school, I felt like I lost all kinds of classes at the end of the year. I think maybe this year it's a little bit different in that there's not the school play or maybe there is, I don't know, but we always used to lose classes to prom and to the school play and to different parties or different activities. So you're rushing to the end of the year and you have even less classes than what you normally do, right? So you've got that, much less you've got planning for final exams. And this year you probably can't use your regular final exam, right? The one that you've already had designed and that maybe you tweak each year, but that you can't use it at all this year because either you didn't cover as much content or the content was so different due to the way we taught during this pandemic year. Am I right? So you're probably coming up with all different final exam project ideas. Now, I'm probably going to do a whole separate recording on final exam project ideas because that is really a whole separate topic and I don't want to take your time here. Today we're just going to talk about how to wrap things up right because I've got some really specific tips that I think are important for you. Okay, so probably the first thing I would tell you is as you realize that you're looking at your calendar and you have very limited time, don't race to the finish. Don't say, oh my God, I've got to cram all this stuff in. Stop for a second and say to yourself, what is the most important? What is going on with my students? What is like, sorry, when I say what is the most important, look at your content first and say, what do I have to teach for them to be able to move on to next year? And really like filter it down to just the most important part. And then say, what's really important to my students? Where are my students right now? What's important to them or what's important to the school? Kind of step back away from just your content and look at the bigger picture. Because what I think is the most important, and I would choose anytime, is the community of students that you've created. The relationships you have with the students, especially this year, that is been such a weird and difficult year. So I would say make sure your students feel seen and heard. Make sure that they feel counted and respected and really listen to what they have to say first. And then we'll talk about your content or unit 3 and division or whatever it is. I honestly believe that that's the most important thing to consider first. And then the second idea, as you're wrapping up these last classes or months, is to reflect upon the year. Now, I'm sure you're saying, duh, of course I'm going to reflect on the year. I do that every year. Just listen. I think it's really important that you reflect upon the year like you always do, and I give you a couple of extra little tips, but that the students reflect on the year too. That they don't just say, my favorite unit was, or I liked it when I got an A. You know, you need to give them a little time to reflect upon a lot of different things. So let's split this up. First of all, it's really important that it's not just you, it's the students. Okay, so now let's talk about the teachers. How are you reflecting upon the year? What I want you to do is to stop first and to say to yourself, what am I really proud of? Well, I can tell you right now, what should be number one on your list, what you're really proud of, is that you got through this year, and I'm sure you did an amazing job. Stay positive. Pat yourself on the back. Tell yourself that you are enough, that you've done a fantastic job, because it was a really tough time. And so start with that. I really want you to stay 100% positive in all this and don't focus on what you didn't do or what was hard or how exhausted you are. It doesn't really help. So say to yourself, what am I proud of? What did I really do well? And then, maybe when you're doing this, you need to look at not only what you taught, like your content, what you taught and what you're proud of and what went well, but also how you taught it. This year there was a whole technology aspect that was kind of like a whole, I don't know, it's the other shoe of the pair. It's like not only what you taught, but how you taught it. So I want you to look at it kind of separately, because I think that is, this year especially, it was two separate things. It's always kind of two separate things, but this year especially. So look at it saying what you're really proud of, what you've done, what really went well, and then say, okay, now how can I grow? What can I do better next year to make it go even better, right? Stay positive. And then lastly, I would say to yourself, what can I learn this summer in order to make things even better for next year? And when I say, what can I learn? I'm going to give you a little sneak peek, because actually I'm going to offer a digital course this summer all about teaching, meaning the pedagogy and technology together, to how to do this efficiently and effectively. So it's going to be about teaching tools with technology. It will be to help you to just do it better. I'm not trying to get you to do fancy bells and whistles or play a goofy game. What I'm trying to do is create more engagement with the students and to help you do it more efficiently and effectively, as I just said 3 times. But it's not just to use it, it's to use it well. And so that's my goal for my course this summer. So stay tuned. If you're interested, I will be offering that soon. Just check my website, which you can see right here. So that is how I would suggest that you do your review. Stay positive, figure out how you can grow, and then figure out what you want to focus on over the summer after you take a well-deserved break, right? Okay, now second of all, how can the students reflect? I've got a brilliant tip for you. Look back at what you assigned in September. Look back at some of your projects or little assignments. This probably works best with like a little writing assignment, like a little paragraph. If you assign something like that in September, if you didn't, it's fine. I'm sure you can figure out a way to do it. But assign the exact same thing in June. And sometimes the kids will realize, sometimes they don't realize. Don't tell them it's the exact same assignment. Just have them complete it all over again. And it's a great way for them to compare and contrast how well they've learned and all the different things that they've done, So I love to do that. Make a note for doing something like that in September, then collect it and keep it so that you can assign the exact same thing in June and turn back in to them. When you hand it back to them, you hand back both copies and they can really see how far they've grown. I love it when students realize how much they've done. It kind of takes them by surprise. So after that first assignment compared to last assignment comparison, then what I would have you do is write down in some way, maybe on the board or with a handout, whatever, every single thing that they've done this year. give them a list of all the different units that they studied, or maybe projects or tests or subunits, or, anything that you kind of feel like was a topic. Give them a full list of everything that they've done and have them look at it. I guarantee you they're going to be like, wow, I didn't realize we did all that. Every single year I did this, and every single year that was the reaction. So it's kind of like, well, what do you remember? Sometimes that's a good one thing to do. Maybe you want to ask that first. What do you remember about this year? What was fun and exciting, and what did you like? And then give them the whole list of everything that they've done. And then do a reflection exercise as to what they think was their best unit and why, what they was really hard for them and why, and maybe even suggestions that they would make for you. I always did this. I asked them to reflect upon me, like what they thought went really well, what I did well, what they remembered about a particular unit, and what was really hard for them. And very often that reflects upon your practice, you as a teacher, and that's okay. I rarely got a negative, like super negative comment. I learned a ton from my students' reflections about me. I would highly recommend that you do that too. And you could do this student reflection in a lot of different ways. You could do a big portfolio project for the end of the year. You could use that as the final assessment for their year. And speaking of portfolios, I will create another video about that, which is what technology to use to create a portfolio. I love portfolios. I used to teach foreign language, so to see your progress build as you go is a wonderful tool. But that works for lots of other topics too, other subjects. So you could use something like Seesaw, either the free version or the paid version. It's got an app and a website. I know it's designed for really young learners, so it looks kind of like childish, but it's a very powerful tool. So I would highly suggest Seesaw. You could create a portfolio as a digital book in something like Book Creator. And I did a blog post on digital books. You can find that on my website here. You could do it in Google Slides and then create it as a presentation at the end for the students to see. You could create Google Sites. I'm not as crazy about Google Sites, but I know a lot of people like to do it as a Google site. There's all different ways that you could create a digital portfolio with all different types of tools. And I'll create another video on that if you guys are interested. So that would be what I would suggest. So you could also do these little portfolios as just like one little project. Maybe it's not their final assessment. Maybe it's just, 3 top things that you learned this year as a little digital book, just like one little project. Or it could just be a class discussion. It could be a full class reflection and discussion, a writing assignment, whatever you'd like it to be. So I think those are the ways that students could reflect. So summing up, point number 1, I said focus on your community rather than on your content, and make sure that you decide what's best for them. Number 2 is to reflect and make sure that you reflect on your year, keep it all positive, as well as the students reflecting on their year with all the information for them so that they can really grasp as to everything that they did. And lastly, what's really important is to wrap up your LMS in a organized fashion. Now, your LMS may be Google Classroom, it may be Canvas, it may be Schoology, it may be ManageBack. There's all different learning management systems. I used to use Google Classroom a lot, so I'll just quickly tell you, Google Classroom is very important that you copy the entire class and make it a new class with a new year as its title. But what's even more important is that you archive the old class, and I'll tell you why. This is my favorite story. We realized that we had told all of our teachers at my old school to copy their classes and archive the old ones. Well, she got the first message and she copied the class so that she had all of her teacher materials ready for the next year. By the way, it doesn't copy the student assignments or the students. It just copies what the teacher created in the new classroom. So that's great, super convenient. But then the old class, she just kind of left there. When you do that, it still stays as part of the student's list of classes. When they go up to all their classes, it still stays right there. So the students in third grade, yes, they're 8 years old, realized that the teacher wasn't using that old class, but they could still use it. So they went in and they were using it as a private chat room. Yeah, I know. 8-year-olds. So the only way we found out about it was that one kid was being bullied, the poor thing. So she reported it, and then we realized. So make sure you either take all of your students out of the class or you just archive the class. That is one of two ways of doing the exact same thing. When you archive it, you don't lose it. It just stays in the archived classes section. You can still find it there later. So copy your Google Classroom and archive your old one. And then with the other learning management systems, I'm sure you can do a similar thing. You just copy it for the new year and make sure that the old version of the class is not accessible to students. That's the most important part. Okay, so that's our topic for today, how to wrap up the year without screaming to the end and freaking out. We do it in a studied and a more organized manner. So I hope you found this helpful. Please feel free to comment at any time. You could comment on the blogs down below. You could comment on my Facebook page, or you could comment right here on these Facebook Lives, whatever you'd like to do. So if nobody has any comments, I will sign off now. Thanks everybody for coming. It's great to have you here, and I'll see you next week.